Thank you very much. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. And I think it's been a great learning experience so far in this short period of the afternoon. And thanks to Khalid Saab and Abrar Saab and other friends and colleagues and to bring such a galaxy of people together. And I was happy to meet my old friend virtually, Chandra Muzaffar Saab, because he's an icon not just of intellect, not just for Malaysia, but for the Muslim world. And Awais Saab, thank you for your presentation. You mentioned, and I want to start from there, Professor Richard Falk. By the way, very few people know Richard Falk, who was in Princeton, now lives in Turkey. He's settled there, he's in his 90s, and his last speech was on 12th of December 2022 in Ankara, at a conference on Kashmir. Wow. And what he said in that conference on Kashmir was, and I just want to quote, it came in the Pakistani press also, to achieve liberation for Kashmir depends above all on fulfilling the inalienable right of self-determination which has been withheld by India for 75 years. Professor Richard Falk. So, you know, the same ditto for Palestine. So I just want to say that these issues, whether it's Palestine, whether it's Kashmir, लोग कहते हैं जी there's been 70 years, 60 years. The principle is eternal. It doesn't go away. And the principle, when there's occupation, there is resistance to that occupation, and he's absolutely right, there is a right of the oppressed people to resist occupation, whether it's the Kashmiri people or the Palestinian people. So I think we shouldn't be defensive on this issue of so-called terrorism. Yesterday I was speaking at the Literature Festival, and somebody talked about Hamas and said that extremism, we support Palestine, but Hamas is extremist. I said, number one, I'll say two things. First of all, as Malcolm X said, extremism in the defense of justice is no vice. And secondly, Hamas is not extremist. Hamas is a democratically elected political organization. The elections were held in January 2006 in Gaza. They were monitored by international observers, including former President Jimmy Carter, who said, and I quote, that this is the freest election held in the Middle East. And Dr. Chandra Muzaffar also alluded to it. I just wanted to say, Jimmy Carter certified that. And I would say I was chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee then, of the Senate of Pakistan. We invited His Excellency Mahmoud Zahar, Foreign Minister of Palestine from Gaza, from Hamas. He came here, he addressed our parliament, and I want to also tell that Pakistan, I convinced the government then, this is General Musharraf and Shaukat Aziz, that we must give support. We gave $3 million also to them, which they had to carry in cash. So, you know, because, no, it's an elected government. They won legitimacy. So just to say that they are, and dismiss them in that context is totally wrong. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, the geopolitical context, because you're talking of reshaping global order. Yes, the global order is seeing turbulence. It is seeing a transformation. And there are three dimensions of that which I think are extremely relevant. Number one is the decline of the West. The decline was mentioned by Chandra Muzaffar Saab also about the United States. But it's not just the United States of America. It's also generally the West as we see it. And I'll just refer you to 2-3 statements that have been made. President Xi Jinping, he was in China also. Khalid Saab, maybe I was also in China. Xi Jinping said that we are witnessing once in a century changes. Once in a century, you see those changes after 100 years. The Chancellor of Germany, Olaf Scholz, he wrote an article in Foreign Affairs. And what does he say? He says that we are witnessing epochal tectonic change. Tectonic changes when there's an earthquake, the tectonic blades, that kind of geopolitical changes. But the most important statement was made by President Macron of France in August when he addressed the French ambassadors. And I quote, 300 years of Western hegemony is coming to an end. 300 years of Western hegemony is coming to an end. 300 साल की मगरबी बालादस्ती का खात्मा हो रहा है. This is what the French president said in his thing. This is the reality. So and we are witnessing it in our own lives. So that is number one. The global balance of economic and political power is shifting. And conversely, we see also the Asian resurgence, the peaceful rise of China, which had been predicted by Allama Iqbal 90 years ago. Dekh mashriq se ubarte hue suraj ko dekh. See the sun rising from the east. Gara khab chini sambhalne lage. हिमालय के चश्मे उबलने लगे गया दौर सरमायादारी गया तमाशा दिखा के मदारी गया. This was that the rise of China was predicted long before the Chinese Revolution, by the way. So, that is a very key element of that, the resurgence of Asia. And we are seeing it, the Belt and Road Initiative of China, which includes 150 countries, which is the biggest diplomatic and developmental initiative of the 21st century, as based on connectivity, based on cooperation, and so forth. So that is an aspect. The third reality is that the West is not giving up. The US is not giving up. The new Cold War. 20 years of the so-called war on terror. They are now trying to have a Cold War in Asia, counter China, Cold War in Europe, Russia. And in the Middle East also they were trying to do that, but we'll just discuss that. And you see two contrasting visions. China has spent $1 trillion in 3,000 projects in the last 10 years in the Belt and Road Initiative, including the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, in which $25.4 billion have been invested in Pakistan. The United States in the last 20 years, after 9/11, spent, and these are figures I'm quoting from the American sources, not Pakistani, Brown University, costs of war, cost of conflict study, which is the Brown University study, it's in the internet. And it says the US spent $6 trillion. Trillion means kharab. 1 billion is 1,000. $6 trillion in the war, leading to 900,000 deaths of Muslims in Pakistan, Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria, Libya, Somalia. 30 million people displaced or homeless. 30 million, 3 crore. 324,000, 3,24,000 bombs, missiles and drones thrown in that period. जो बात की ना चंद्रा मुजफ्फर ने global power की, that's what he meant. अफगानिस्तान में देख लें, 20 years में, out of the 6 trillion, 2.2 trillion was spent in Afghanistan. $100 million a day. $100 million a day for 20 years. And I'll give you, ladies and gentlemen, a small example of power. I was recently in China and I met people from Laos because they have a new railway, and the new Chinese ambassador in Pakistan has come from Laos. So we were discussing. And that person, he's the editor of Vientiane Times, their only English paper. I said, how did you survive the war? And even I was shocked because I'm a student of this thing and I studied in America also. He said for 10 years, Laos ki abadi usko 30 lakh thi, 3 million. From 65 to 75 in the war end. The United States bombed Laos after every 8 minutes for 10 years, throwing 3 million tons of bombs on a population of 3 million. The so-called Ho Chi Minh Trail. Sanctuary, this is the hard power ki reality. So, these are, if I'm sorry to say, but these are crimes. This is not war even. What Israel is doing, exactly the expression of global power. Since we are also having students from the UMT, and it's a great pleasure to welcome them from Center for Critical Peace Studies, I just want to mention, people ask, देखें जी क्या है Pakistan or Palestine? We should do what the OIC says, जो Arab League करते हैं. The Palestine issue is, some people say Arab issue is. I said there's a special relationship of Pakistan with Palestine, which we need to understand. In my speech in Senate, I said Palestine is part of our DNA. Because the Qaid-e-Azam Muhammad Ali Jinnah representative and leader of the Muslims of the South Asian subcontinent. In 23rd March 1942, resolutions were passed. One on the right of self-determination of the Muslims of the South Asian subcontinent, the other one on Palestine. He was representing the Muslims of India, but he talked about Palestine. In 1937, Allama Iqbal had written a letter to him on Palestine. So this is because I said that, I know this is not popular, but Pakistan was created in the name of Islam for the Muslims, and Pakistani leaders, by and large, have had and I will not be defensive, a pan-Islamist worldview, because we care for this. That's why we offered succor and support to Bosnia. We didn't have any economic interest in Bosnia. We didn't have any overseas Pakistanis in Bosnia. We didn't have any border in Bosnia. We didn't have Muslim Brotherhood. And I was proud that I went there in 1993 and met President Ali Izzat Begovic, the president. He only asked for anti-tank missiles, which we gave. We were the first to give them. And he presented me a book, his own book, Islam Between East and West. And the book is dedicated to Professor Dr. Muhammad Iqbal. This is a lawyer in communist Yugoslavia who's writing a book, and he's inspired by Iqbal. This is the spirit. So Pakistan and Palestine, we are the only non-Arab country which has taken part in 2 Arab-Israeli wars. Under Field Marshal Ayub Khan, 1967 war. Group Captain Saiful Azam. He shot down 4 planes of Israel. Jordan Air Force, Iraqi Air Force. October 1973, it's a civilian government. Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, the Ramzan War, or October War. Syrian Air Force, Group Captain Sattar Alvi, 2 Israeli planes shot down. The only time Arabs have shot down Israeli planes are because of Pakistani pilots, mashallah. And the first time PLO got recognition as the sole legitimate representative of the people of Palestine, Wahid Numayanda Jamaat, Lahore Islamic Summit. Shahid Faisal, Malik Faisal of Saudi Arabia, and Zulfikar Ali Bhutto was there. And 6 months after that, in October 1974, at the Arab League Summit in Rabat, they did the same thing. But we were the first. And in 1982, the Battle of Beirut, when the Sabra Shatila massacre took place and they were being evicted from there were 3 countries which offered them troops to Arafat. And this Arafat told me himself also, when I interviewed him in Tunis in 1990. Iran, Algeria, and Pakistan. And Pakistan was then being ruled by General Muhammad Ziaullah. So let's be very clear on the perspective that we have had this track record. And these are policies which predate the OIC and Arab League. And this is an issue of principle which are inextricably linked, as he said rightly, with the inalienable right of self-determination. Palestine and Kashmir, the 2 issues are intertwined. And we salute the resilience of the people of Kashmir and Palestine for the causes that refuses to die and the people who refuse to be cowed down or to accept the status quo. I think that is extremely important. One other thing I'd like to bring about is the US role. Because the US role has been very pivotal, very key. First of all, I would like to salute the public opinion of the West. Whether it's Washington, D.C., whether it's New York, whether it's London, Paris, Berlin, the people have come out in large numbers. That shows the conscience of the people. And even today, yesterday's opinion poll in America says 66% of Americans favor a ceasefire. But the official position, if you speak about ceasefire, you are sacked. That person, Mr. Bristow, who was parliamentary under Secretary, was sacked. What is the US position? I'll just give you 3 statements of the US. Mr. Biden, the President of the United States, is participating in the lies of Netanyahu. When Al-Ahli Baptist Hospital was bombed and 500 babies were massacred, he endorsed the lie of Netanyahu that this is a Palestinian jihad has done it, Islamic jihad, which then later on it was proven totally false. And secondly, when he questioned the figures, the health ministry of Gaza came out with the exact figure, 7,467 persons, children, women, and men with their names, their ID cards, and everything. The lie was nailed. So the American president, I'm sorry to say, is contributing to a lie. It's like President Obama, who said in 2011 that please release a diplomat, Raymond Davis, when he was a CIA contractor. He was not even a diplomat. So you can see that. The president is lying. Then Jake Sullivan, their national security advisor. On 7th of October, you saw the Hamas uprising in Gaza. 5 days before that, there was an article, and since you are a think tank, you would see that in the Foreign Affairs. Jake Sullivan, national security advisor of Biden, says, and I quote, "The Middle East has never been as calm and peaceful today in years as it has been." कि इतना पुरअमन सुकून कभी नहीं हुआ मशरक़ी वस्ता में जो इस वक्त है. 2 October, 5 days before this. This reminds me of what President Carter said in 1977 when he went to Iran. Iran is an island of peace and stability in a sea of violence. And ek saal baad inqilab aa gaya aur wo farag ho gaya tha. So you know this. And the third, which is a very shocking and shameful statement of the American Secretary of State in his first visit to Israel, he said, "I speak today not only as the US Secretary of State, but also as a Jew." Are you the spokesman of Israel? उसको जवाब दिया था अर्दोगान ने कि what about Muslims? Do you speak in that capacity? That the US Secretary of State is saying anybody else, if he had made the statement, they would have been fired immediately. So this shows the involvement. And they have sent 2 aircraft carriers, USS Ford, USS Eisenhower. Usme there are 10,000 troops, 100 planes, and there are already 40,000 troops of the United States in the Middle East and Gulf region, in 13 bases, 6 land bases and 7 naval stations. And the US veto on Palestine issue in the last 50 years has been 53 times. 53 vetoes in the United Nations Security Council for the last so many years. So what needs to be done, in my view, and people have been saying that this, I talked to the foreign minister also. I said that, he said, what can we do? We organized, initially pusa bayan tha hamara government ka, phir humne pressure dala. Then they came, thoda sa dam paida hua, and the stronger statements came. I said, at least I would say that have a 3-point agenda, some kind of an action plan. Number one, one of the major battles apart in the field is the media battle of narratives. There's so much lies has been. At least we can try to have some media coordination or media consortium. Pakistan, Al Jazeera, Al Arabiya, Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, Iran. At least 2-3 hours of a common narrative giving facts about what is happening on the ground. Because the other people are lying. There's a censorship in the Western media. The so-called who talk of human rights and democracy. So this is important. The message should go out loud and clear. Some coordination that we say, okay, every day we have coordination and programs, we exchange that institutionally. ये तो हम कर सकते हैं ना, ये तो हमारे हाथ में. It doesn't cost any money. Number 2, Pakistan, Turkey, and Indonesia should take leadership, organized a naval flotilla to take relief goods to end the blockade of Gaza and seeking the intervention of the UN through the UN General Assembly. Okay, this killing has gone too far. 2 points. We want to make sure we get the relief supplies, because I was told by the Foreign Minister of Pakistan that out of the relief goods which have been sent through Arish in the Rafah crossing, only 15% have been allowed in. Sara wo pada hua hai saman. So, and the naval blockade is there. So, we have a strong navy. Turkey has a strong navy. Indonesia has a strong navy. We feel strongly we should take this initiative. We will carry relief goods, humanitarian goods, and also when the goods are given there, people can be evacuated. After all, it's a human life, and we can get the UN General Assembly sanction for that. If the vote was there, as you know, at least there was a legality to that. Take that initiative. And thirdly, I think immediately an international delegation of leaders of conscience led by Erdogan, others, maybe the Pakistan President Jokowi of Indonesia, Anwar Ibrahim, President of Nigeria or South Africa, others, that we want to now go to Washington, go to European Union, say, end the occupation and let us take steps to organize a conference for a sovereign, independent state of Palestine with Jerusalem as its capital. अब ये नहीं कि human rights की बात है सारा, अब clinch it. And I think we should take it forward. Chandra Muzaffar also said the same thing, that this is important. Palestine state. ये UN resolution में है. Those resolutions are valid. Kashmir की आप बात करते हैं, Antonio Guterres came to Pakistan. He said, United Nations resolutions on Kashmir are as valid today as they were valid before. Or finally, I'd like to mention, knowledge क्या है इनका. I went to a special envoy of the Prime Minister जब uprising हुई थी मुजफ्फर वानी की, शहीद की, तो and to lobby in America. I went to see the UN and we met the Deputy Secretary General. उनका था American का, कोई American था. Malia Lodi was with me. And he said, we started talking, yes, and we started explaining the case. He said the resolutions are very old. You know, the last resolution was signed, which mentions Kashmir, is 60 years old. And you know, time is overtaken by time. I said, Excellency, you are factually wrong. He said, what do you mean? I said, the last resolution was 25 years old, where Kashmir is mentioned. He said, no. Not at all. It's 60 years old, Flana, 50. I said, call your secretary. Resolution number 1372, passed in 6th of June 1998, unanimously by the UN Security Council, which condemns India and Pakistan for going nuclear, but says that the root cause of all issues, Kashmir, should be resolved. Oh, hell yeah. मेरी उसकी बहस होगी. He argued, कहता है, no, you are factually inaccurate, Excellency. मैं कहा, please bring your secretary, tell her to Google. फिर चैलेंज किया मैं कहा नहीं, मैं काम पूरा करना है. तो ये तो हाल है जहालत का, नाअहली का, because we don't repeat the essence of the narrative. आप भुलाएं ना इन चीज़ों को. Repetition. जो facts हैं. अगर facts भी दोहराने में हमें शर्म आती है, पसीने छूटते हैं या हाथ मलते हैं, then we should pack our bags and go home then. So this is what I'm saying, the UN. Malia Lodi was there. This is 2017 की बात है शायद मैं बुरहान मुजफ्फर वानी की शहादत जब हुई थी, July 2016 में, 16. This would be August 2016, yes. Immediately after that. A special envoy वो भेजे थे उन्होंने. So what I'm saying is that the international community, we have a very strong case and we should have strong people to हिम्मत करें, दम दिखाएं ज़रा. Our country, Pakistan, supported the liberation struggles of Tunisia, Algeria and Morocco. We gave them Pakistani passports. उस ज़माने में, 50s में. We have done so much. और कोई जी वो IMF नाराज़ हो जाएगा, फलाना हो जाएगा. For God's sake, let us. I mean, we have a country, and this applies to other countries also. So I think that this event has been extremely important. I just want to conclude on that count. I feel that every challenge is an opportunity. This is not a challenge, of course. This is a crime. This is a massacre. This is a carnage. This is जिसे उर्दू में कहते हैं नस्ल कुशी हो रही है, because it's and genocide, because what happened, what Hitler could not do to the Jews, which was a crime. And I always say, we condemn the crimes against humanity committed by the Christians of Europe against the Jews of Europe. जिसमें मुसलमानों का कोई हाथ नहीं था, उन्हीं का था. But we are paying a price for that. So I think, but the time has come to speak up and focus. And thank God the debate about so-called Israel se ye kare, wo kare, that has been buried forever. It's buried in the debris of Gaza. And ye jo unhone kaha tha, IMEC aayega, Israel, India, Middle East, European Union corridor, ये प्लान कर रहे थे to counter China, वो भी दफन हो गया अब. So I think the whole new world is opening up. There's a clear divide. I think the global south, whether it's the Muslim countries, Asia, Africa, Latin America, Bolivia is not Muslim, Chile is not Muslim, Argentina is not Muslim, Venezuela is not Muslim. वो stand ले रहे हैं, असूल की बात है. It's the issue of humanity, and I think we should take it forward. I am very grateful to my good friend Khalid Rahman Saab and of course Ambassador Saab for taking this initiative and for honoring me with this kind invitation. And good luck, sir. I have to go to the Senate. वो भी ज़रा कर लें. बहुत मेहरबानी.